Shells scream across the waves as USS Johnston charges alone into a wall of Japanese battleships. Her guns thunder. Smoke floods the deck. Then, an armor-piercing round tears through her side. The ship shudders. The sea rushes in. And within minutes, the brave destroyer begins to disappear beneath the flames. Tonight, we dive to find where she fell. At 6,460 meters beneath the surface, the sea turns into something ancient, an endless black chamber where light dies, sound is swallowed, and even memory seems fragile. Through the ROV's narrow beam, a shape slowly materializes out of the void. A torn bow, a collapsed gun mount, steel plates curled like burned paper. This is not just any wreck. This is USS Johnston, the deepest shipwreck ever found, and a vessel whose final battle has become legend. As the camera drifts closer, silt falls like ash over the mangled superstructure. Every scar, every shattered edge, carries the echo of a fight so violent, so hopelessly one-sided, that historians still describe it as one of the most courageous stands in U.S. naval history. Tonight, we descend to meet the ghost of the destroyer that would not back down. USS Johnston was a Fletcher-class destroyer, commissioned in 1943, a fast, lean warship built for escorting carriers and defending convoys. Under the command of Commander Ernest E. Evans, Johnston quickly gained a reputation for discipline, aggression, and razor-sharp maneuvering. Evans himself was intense, fearless, and famously blunt. He once told his crew, "This is going to be a fighting ship. I intend to go in harm's way." That promise was fulfilled on October 25, 1944, during the Battle of Samar, one of the most dramatic naval clashes of WWII. The U.S. escort carriers of Taffy III, lightly armed and protected only by destroyers and destroyer escorts, suddenly found themselves facing the full force of the Japanese center force. Battleships including Yamato heavy cruisers, light cruisers, destroyers. In terms of firepower, the Americans were outnumbered 10-1. Evans did not hesitate. Johnston charged alone, at flank speed, straight toward the advancing Japanese fleet. She fired torpedoes, laid smoke screens, and drew fire away from the carriers. But the cost was devastating. The destroyer was struck repeatedly by armor-piercing shells, torpedo blasts, and concentrated gunfire. Fires spread, steering failed, ammunition ran low. Still, the crew kept fighting until Johnston was reduced to a burning skeleton of steel. At 10:10 a.m., she finally slipped beneath the waves, taking more than half her crew with her. For decades, she remained lost, her location a mystery swallowed by the abyss, until explorers found her resting deeper than any warship ever discovered. Our descent begins far above the Philippine Sea, where sunlight fades into blue, then indigo, then into a suffocating black that no human eye can penetrate. The ROV continues downward, its thrusters humming faintly against crushing pressure that reaches more than 9,000 psi. Particles drift past the camera like drifting embers, tiny reminders of a battle that ended 80 years ago. At 5,000 meters, the water becomes still, silent, heavy. At 6,000 meters, life itself grows rare. Then, there it is. A faint, angular silhouette appears in the ROV's lights, a warped ridge of steel, a burst of corrosion spreading like frozen fire. The bow of USS Johnston emerges slowly from the darkness, lying upright on the sea floor. The number 557 is still visible, faint, half erased by rust, but unmistakable. The ROV circles cautiously, its beams cutting narrow tunnels of light through the abyss. The silence is overwhelming. Nothing moves, nothing stirs. It feels as though the ship is waiting, like a fallen guardian lying in eternal sleep. We inch closer to the wreck, and the battle begins to speak. The first major structure to come into view is the forward gun mount. Once capable of spitting 5-inch shells at incoming aircraft and surface ships, the turret is now collapsed, its armor plating peeled outward from internal explosions. Silt clings to every surface, softening the edges, giving the metal a ghostly, bone-like texture. To the right, the port side hull shows deep penetrations from armor-piercing hits. These are not clean punctures. They are jagged. Rust trails flow from the holes like frozen waterfalls, tracing the path of destruction. The ROV moves aft. Along the deck, shattered fragments of the superstructure lie scattered what once held radar. Communications gear and command stations is now a deformed skeleton of beams and collapsed bulkheads. The captain's bridge, where Ernest Evans issued his final orders, is barely recognizable. Only the frame remains, bent and split. We drift toward the torpedo launchers. One launcher lies at an angle, partly torn loose from its mount. A second launcher is buried halfway in silt, as though the ocean itself tried to cradle the weapon in its final resting place. Further aft, the deck abruptly drops away, the result of catastrophic damage inflicted during the battle. Here, the steel is bent sharply downward, as if folded by an invisible hand. This section bears signs of multiple shell impacts. Some penetrations are clean circles. Others resemble ripped wounds, where armor fractured under extreme force. The ROV's lights catch something unexpected. A gun shield, still partially intact. Its edges are curled and scarred, but the silhouette is unmistakable. This was one of the weapons the crew operated until the very end, firing until ammunition ran dry. We continue toward the stern. Surprisingly, the aft section of Johnston is better preserved. The rudder and propeller shafts are still in place, though covered in heavy marine growth. The rear deck is coated in a thick layer of silt, giving it an appearance almost like dust on an abandoned room. Nearby, scattered across the seabed, lies a field of debris, sections of the mast, a torn ventilation duct, chunks of plating, a collapsed bulkhead, strips of shattered hull. Each piece is a fragment of the last stand. As the ROV hovers beside the stern, looking down the length of the ship, the scale of the tragedy becomes clear. Johnston died fighting. Every blast mark, every ruptured seam, reflects not surrender, but defiance. In this silent grave, the echoes of gunfire still seem to vibrate through the steel, as though the ship's final moments were carved permanently into its bones. USS Johnston is more than a wreck. She is a memory, one forged in fire, courage, and sacrifice. In the Battle of Samar, her crew faced impossible odds, yet chose to stand between the enemy and the vulnerable carriers behind them. Their bravery helped save thousands of lives. Commander Ernest Evans was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor. Many of his men never returned home. But here, in the deepest black water on Earth, their ship remains, quiet, intact in spirit, unbroken by time. The ocean has taken much from history, but it has also preserved stories the world must never forget. As the ROV's lights fade and the silhouette of Johnston disappears back into eternal darkness, one truth lingers. The ocean remembers, and it refuses to let this hero vanish from memory. Echoes from the deep, stories the ocean never forgot.